Yep, it looks like I'm alive. So, thank you all for being here when you eventually are. At the moment, we've got absolutely nobody in the chat, which is always a good thing. But yeah, it's raining at the moment. So if you hear any kind of rain sounds, it's actually rain sounds. And I am using my Rode Procaster, so Rodecaster Pro, which is a sound deck for this particular live stream, and it's a nice deck. I've had it around for about a year and a half now, but I haven't really used it on the channel. And it lets me do wonderful things like soundboard sounds like this. And I can even do weird things like movie quotes. Now I've got to hit a couple of buttons to do that. So if I go like this and like this, I can do movie quotes.
Marabunta.
Big girl, how is the sound? Is the sound coming? And it looks like there we go. I think we're back. Is the sound synchronized or is it lagging a bit? Because I need to know that. Otherwise, everything is going to go belly up. Yay!
Marabunta.
Now I can do this as well, which is another sound, which is for when I drink coffee. So I can go like this, you see. And it works well. Video is buffering a bit though. Nothing coming through at the moment at your end. Okay, that's not good at all. I've turned off everything else that's using the internet connection, so hopefully it will work okay. Not a fascist slave. Hi, I told you we're here. Hope that yay was for me. Yeah, it is. Yay is for everybody, and it's going well. It's the weather's pretty shitty here. It's warm, but it's humid, and it's going to rain, and it's the morning, and I've only just caffeinated, so who knows what's going to happen. So let's see, we've got 4 people watching. So hi to the other 2 people watching who aren't commenting. And that's fine. So basically this is going to be an Ask Me Anything thing. It's going to be a bit of a show and tell. It's going to be a bit of a news update and things like that. Yeah, it could be our internet middle-aged geek girl. But by the way, she's moderating at the moment, so you guys had better watch out because she doesn't take crap from anybody except me, and she rarely takes it from me. So, yeah, it's been a pretty full-on week for us here. I went out into the city of Melbourne for the first time in over a year with all the lockdowns and all the big COVID thing and all that kind of stuff, and Omicron on the horizon like a giant metallic robot. So I caught up with a friend of mine, and he and I just kind of sat around and chatted for an hour, and it was good to do face to face with people. It was really wonderful. Um, let's see, not a fashion savers. I think it's the internet. Mine's not been going wonky all afternoon. Keep your chin up. It's raining and cold here. You'd rather be in Australia. Who wouldn't? The girl on girl isn't for nothing, says middle-aged geek girl. That's true. So yeah, basically I went out and caught up with my friend Morris. And if Morris ever watches this, hi Morris. Really good supporter of the channel, really nice guy. And we kind of caught up and did a lot of stuff. And then I forgot to give him the movies I had for him. And now I've got to mail them to him. So that's the way it goes sometimes. And it was good to get out in the sunshine and see what the city's like. There's a lot of shops that have shut down with COVID and lockdowns. And so it feels really weird. And it occurred to me while I was walking around Melbourne City that this wasn't the apocalypse that movies had promised me. It was a slow apocalypse that the shops were shut down and some of the places I wanted to go to weren't there anymore. There's a really nice Japanese bento place that I wanted to have lunch at, and that was shut down as well. So weird times we live in, but we're going to get through it. We're going to be fine. We'll get through it. We will persevere and survive. And so, does anybody want to see the movies I've got recently? I've got a few movies here, and I really want to share them because they're very cool. At least one of them's cool, and the other one's kind of interesting from an historical point of view. So nobody is talking in the chat. You're all just hanging on my every word, I can tell. So we'll see how we go with this. I'm just going to finish this espresso because I don't want it to get too cold, because when it's cold, it's definitely not the best. So I'll put on the slurp sound effect. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Done. What have you seen? Middle-aged geek girl. Oh, you haven't seen the new things I got. Haven't I shown them to you? Okay, here we go. So I will start with the second one of the two, which I picked up from Zavi because I really wanted to get this. Actually, I didn't. I got it from JB Hi-Fi, which is the big yellow box store, which enables us to get... I forgot the sound effect. Tell me if you can hear this sound effect, middle-aged geek girl. Can you hear that one? Because I'm not sure if the sound effect's coming through. But anyway, this one's from Imprint, which is an Australian label, which does fantastic Blu-rays. They put out about 5 or 6 a month. And I don't necessarily want all of them, because there are some of them I kind of go meh about. But when they, about once a month, they really put out something really... Oh, she's being sarcastic. Sarcasm doesn't work if I can't hear your dulcet tones. Anyway, so this one's from Imprint. We put out some really great stuff. The quality of the videos, the Blu-rays they put out is fantastic. They've always got slipcovers. They're always great. And this is a movie that very few people have heard of and very few people know. It's from 1970, and it's called Tam Lin, which is an interesting movie. It stars Ava Gardner, Ian McShane, Cyril Cusack, Richard Waters, and Stephanie Beacham. Now, the interesting thing about this movie, apart from all the other interesting things about this movie, it's about an aging sorceress played by Ava Gardner, who ensorcels a young man played by Ian McShane. Yep, directed by Roddy McDowall, DeCamore. It's the only movie Roddy McDowall ever directed. And I'm looking forward to seeing that one. I may well watch it later today, or maybe a little bit later, but it's a really interesting, deep cut. Have to forgive their middle-aged geek girls everywhere. Here in America is a little tense because of what's going on. Okay, fair enough. You guys can have a chat about that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Tamlin. It's got a ton of extras on it. And hang on, mirror reverse. What the hell? Okay, whatever. Is it? No. It is. At least from my point of view. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this. From what I can see, the quality of the copy that they made this from is really great. And Imprint always put the year that the movie was made on the spine, so you can kind of put them in chronological order when you collect them as well, which is really good. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm not expecting it to be the best movie since Citizen Kane, but it's one of those interesting hidden gems. I may well review for the channel based on that fact. It's one I'm really looking forward to it. No, it's coming through the right way. It says middle-aged geek girl. Everything's mirror reverse for me because I'm looking at the camera feed. That's good to know. The second one, I'm only going to do 2 of these, is another Imprint. And I really like this because I had 2 of the 3 movies in this trilogy. I've already done a video about this trilogy. And yeah, thanks, Not a Fascist Slave. Never steered you wrong in recommendations. Even got you into old gangster flicks. My pleasure. But this one, I had 2 of the 3 movies in this trilogy. I've done a video about the trilogy already. And Imprint put it out, and it's the Harry Palmer trilogy with Michael Caine. And it's great. It's a really nice box set. It's got the Press Funeral in Berlin and $1 Billion Brain. This pulls off. Hang on. This pulls off. So you can access the movies. The covers for each of them, and Luna's just turned up here. The covers for each of them are pretty damn good. And looking forward to revisiting them as well. So that is a nice box set. Hang on, let me just grab Luna so everybody can see her. There's Stinky Luna. Say hi, Luna. She doesn't want to because she wants to come get down. Okay, down you get. Yeah, she's a force of nature, that one. But the Harry Palmer trilogy, really groovy to get that. And I didn't get it for too much. It didn't cost me much more than just getting the movies individually on Blu-ray, but it's a really nice box, and that thing is always loose, and you can get rid of it if you don't want to. But yeah, I'm really glad to get that. I didn't have Funeral in Berlin, but I do have all three now, so I'm happy about that. And it's interesting because I've hit the boom arm for the microphone. It goes like this, which I suppose is another sound effect. But yeah, the other thing with the sound effects is that let me just bring up the sound effects board because I'm in love with playing with this. Is that I can. Yeah, well, I've got technology to play with here. So there we go. There's bank one. I can do cricket sounds. I can do an intro. I'll do an orchestral intro for you. I'll do that. I can do laughter in case nobody laughs. I can do applause in case nobody applauds. I can do a sad trombone in case nobody applauds. Let's see. Rim shot in case the joke lands. Scary sounds. The crickets again. Or a harp sound. I'm going to put more things on the soundboard for the next live stream. I'm going to really have fun with that. I'll put more movie quotes, which are great because does anybody know which movie this one's from? I'm going to give you the one movie quote that I've got on the soundboard.
Marabunta.
I'll play that again for you. Okay, I'll turn down the sound effects a little bit. Middle-aged geek girl, thanks for the feedback.
Marabunta.
Is that better? Yeah, so they're the videos I got, and I'm happy with it. I've got some other things turning up. I've got the Shaw Brothers Hong Kong cinema box set, which is about that wide, on its way from Zavi, and that's going to be great. I didn't ask you, middle-aged geek girl, you know where that sound effect is from.
Marabunta.
But yeah, so what was I? Yeah, so I've got the Shaw Brothers box set on as well. And a few other interesting things. Just going to have a drink of water, which is really great. By the way, because it's family, because it's Christmas, does anyone want to say hello to my mother? I'll just wait for an answer to that. And yeah, so yeah, because I've got her here. Yeah, middle-aged geek girl Marabunta. Peter Cushion says, "Hi Terry, interested in seeing on the buses on your worst film first. They were made before I was born, and yeah, they're bad, but I love them. But honestly, I don't care about the un-PC aspects." Man, yeah. Ross Gilton says, "Hello, Mrs. Frost." And the Monteval says, "Hi to my mum." There she is. She's in there. I've got some of her ashes here in the man cave. So there you go. Yeah, there are any number of magical things in the man cave. So yeah. We've got to have CJ Lady. Hello, hi going. Hi Ross. Hi Barry Murphy. Hi Dick Cameron again. And Monteval. Hi, how you doing? Yeah. So interesting things have been happening at the moment. I don't know whether anybody likes the Science Fiction World Con. I mean, I've been involved with that a number of times, and there's a big fuss with the World Science Fiction Convention right at the moment. Middle-aged good girl's real name is Sally Ross, in case you need to know. But yeah, so the World Science Fiction Convention is being held at the moment in the US, I think it is. And there's a big fuss because in 2023, the World Science Fiction Convention is going to be in Chengdu in China. And every damned person who is kind of secretly racist is going mad about it. And so the Chinese science fiction has been getting big in the last few years. There have been things like the Wandering Earth in movies. There's been a lot of science fiction novels coming out of China by Liu Cixin and other people. And yeah, and the kind of American side of the science fiction community has got a little bit upset about that. Now, they've got to remember, this is just for 1 year. It's not like it's permanently going to America. And it's not like America does things like having World Cup, World Championship baseball only being American teams. Peter Cushion says, "Do you have any rare 1960s and 70s British horror film recommendations?" The channel is full of them. Just go back through the the lists, and you'll find them, Peter Cushing. There's a ton of them I've reviewed already, and there's a ton of them to come. One of the things is I want to kind of ration them out, and I've hit the boom arm again. I want to ration them out a little bit, because if I put everything in all at once on the channel, I've got nothing left for later on. So I'm going through various genres and things like that I want to do for the channel, but I'm not chucking them all into one video and just name checking them and going, yeah, watch this. I want to do a little more detail. I want to feed them out a little more slowly, so that there's always content for people to have on the channel. Let's see. Yeah, not a fascist slave. Yep. Peace Galen. Yeah, watched Aniara last night. Yeah, that movie is a real mind. It it messed my head around for a week. It's really good, solid science fiction, but it's merciless and ruthless and really interesting. Yep, I did show my mum. My mum is in there, or at least part of her is. Part of it is also in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Sydney. Part of it is on the street where she was born, because we scattered some of her ashes there. And some of it is with my siblings. So I just keep it there because it feels right to do that. It feels right to have her here, in a sense. Indie Phantom says, love the man cave. You live in China, also worked in Chengdu. I will be surprised if that event is not cancelled, though. I don't know that it will be cancelled, because it does have a lot of official support, and World Cons have never been cancelled. Not since 1948, they haven't. They've gone virtual in the current environment, but they've never been cancelled. And they go fantastically well. The community is really passionate about it. The community is really dedicated to it. And I think what's going to happen with Chengdu is there's going to be a lot of support through back channels from a lot of the people who are the ongoing organizers of WorldCon, and who give the received knowledge and the previous knowledge of it, how to run a WorldCon, to other places. So I think that there are going to be some interesting things happening in that realm. I'm not particularly into WorldCon organizing, but I really like it. Like to see the changes that are rolling through. Yeah, not a fascist slave. Don't worry about it. It's all good. We're all friends here. If something is misinterpreted, we will sort it out. Ross Gilton says, yesterday was one of the geekiest days ever. Watched Spider-Man No Way Home, Wheel of Time, the first 4 episodes of The Witcher, and season 6, episode 2 of The Expanse. Haven't watched the new season of The Witcher. I'm watching The Expanse because, there are some of us Urtas who really like watching The Expanse. And Avasarala is just marvelous in there. Shree Agdashlu is terrific in The Expanse, so I'm really enjoying that. What else am I watching? I'm watching Hawkeye. Just let me hit the cough button. Have I got a cough button here yet? I'm watching Hawkeye, and I enjoy that because I'm an MCU guy. I did see Spider-Man No Way Home, but I'm not going to talk about it because later this week I'm taking Middle-Aged Geek Girl to see it as well. All I'll say about Spider-Man No Way Home is that I love the 3 surprises, and I'm not going to say what they are. And I think that works. I think the whole thing works really well. Let's have a look here. What else did you watch? Wheel of Time. Do you want to hear the story about Robert Jordan at a science fiction convention, the guy who wrote The Wheel of Time? Because he's the reveal at the end of episode 5 of Hawkeye was great, and it's nice to see that particular thespian back in the MCU and being a part of things, because I've got a lot of respect for them. I like their work, and I want to see more of them in the MCU. That's all I'm going to say, because I'm not going to do spoilers here, because spoilers are for wankers. Yeah, Middle-Aged Geek Girl's got to play The Witcher, and she's got it. I know she's definitely got a copy of The Witcher, but she hasn't played that yet. And she's getting back into her gaming slowly, though most of it tends to be Animal Crossing, which is kind of like training children to be capitalist slaves. But anyway, not a fascist. I wouldn't watch The Tiger King if he held a gun to my head. Animal abusing, yeah. No. Sally will watch Tiger King. I won't watch it. Digital Pollution. Hi, how are you today? I'm fine. I mean, I've had 2 coffees. I've had a meat pie for breakfast. All is well. I haven't got anything particularly planned for the week before the reindeer shit hits the roof. But we're going to be going and hanging out with the in-laws, Sal's parents, over on the 25th, and bringing back lots of Tupperware containers full of food. And yeah, it's kind of low key this year because everybody's a little worried about Omicron, and all of us are being safe. I got my boosted jab this week or last week, and had absolutely no side effects. I've had 3 jabs now for COVID, and I've had no side effects really. So I don't know whether it's not working or I'm just some kind of bloody mutant. But either way, I'm quite happy with that. Middle-aged geek girl's getting hers later this month, I think, towards the end of the year. So we'll all be triple jabbed, kind of like a Neapolitan ice cream. And yeah, I'm still going to encourage people on the channel to stay safe, because I think you either follow science or you're a barbarian. And I really want to encourage everybody to wear a mask when you don't feel safe, get the jabs, look after yourself, follow the science, because I want to keep the people who've got subscribed to the channel. I want everybody to be safe and well. Yep, she's got on the 30th. So there's that happening. I'd recommend Spider-Man No Way Home without going into the spoilers. I think it works. I love the way that the technology for portraying certain things on the screen is improving. I think that Marvel does the state of the art, the state of the art special effects. Even in series like Hawkeye, you can still see the attention to detail and the carefully chosen effects in that. It really does do things well. And even though the last episode of Hawkeye is coming up this week, I think I'm going to miss it because I kind of like the style and the mood of it. It's got a little bit of that Shane Black Christmas action film vibe about it, which is really great. And I like the ensemble. I think the ensemble cast works well in that. Indie Phantom says, I had the first full shot, so they keep delaying the third. I only had minor side effects from the first. Wade Heaton says, have I discontinued my Gmail account? Which one, Wade? Because I've got several Gmail accounts. And if you'd let me know which one, I'll check and see if you sent me an email. But yeah, so Spider-Man No Way Home, a lot of fun. I saw it in the normal cinema. We've got 2 tiers of cinema here in Australia. We've got the normal flea pits, and then we've got gold class where they have like 20 or 30 people at most in the cinema. And you get reclining chairs, and people bring you food if you order it, when you order it. Yep. Yeah, not a fascist slave. Thank you. Yeah. So we're going gold class when middle-aged geek girl and I see Spider-Man No Way Home this week, and it's always a little bit of fun. And I kind of like they do some Vietnamese spring rolls, which I really like having in the cinema because they're easy to eat in the dark, and they're more or less healthy. Lee Lavery says, thank you for recommending The Endless. Yeah, it is a great film. I'm so glad I've got a Blu-ray of it, because sometimes I kind of grab a digital copy of things and then I think, okay, if the hard drive fails, I've lost it. So I'm kind of glad I got a Blu-ray of The Endless. I think it's really great. Peace again. I talked about the Overlook Film Encyclopedia of Science Fiction. Here in the UK, it's published as the Aurum Film Encyclopedia Science Fiction. Yeah, that's such a useful book up to a certain date. I think it ends in the 1980s. But the Overlook, or the Aurum Film Encyclopedia Science Fiction, is such a valuable resource. And if you're into cinema of any kind, it doesn't matter if it's science fiction, horror, fantasy, whatever you like, having a decent reference book where you can dig back and then try to find the movies that look interesting in their listing in those encyclopedias is really great. Ross Gilton uses Sci-Fi Chronicles by Gut Hale. CJ Lady says, my favorite film of the year is Riders of Justice. Don't know that one. Well, Guy Hale, sorry. Riders of Justice. Let me just check that out and find any information about that, because I'm intrigued now. 'Cause 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 I'm intrigued now And this is always interesting. Not sure it's turned up here in Australia. It's a Danish comedy. Oh, yeah, I'll give it a go. I'll have to find it. Riders of Justice. Thanks for the tip. I'm going to keep that tab open and just enjoy it. Not a Fascist Slave says, back in the day of the highlights of my years, the Encyclopedia of Horror and Science Fiction came out. Must have at least 40 copies of each different book for each different year. John Cutter, hi. Great to share movie talk with fellow film fans. Absolutely. It's one of the great joys we have. And the fact that I can do it at home where the coffee is cheap is not bad either. So, yeah, there's, let's see, what else have we got? I've got some plans for the new year, which are going to be interesting. I'm not sure. Wade, I'm going to put in the email address you need. That's the one to use. Yeah, meat pies are great. I mean, the funny thing is, I've talked to a lot of Americans and they don't really dig meat pies, but meat pies are the best. There you go. I'll put the email address in there. Yep. Reindeer shit hitting the roof. I think that's Kinky Friedman I'm quoting there. But John Cutter says, been listening to the podcast for years. Glad to face. Oh, yeah. By the way, the podcasts have been archived. I'm not updating the podcasts anymore, but they're still going to be accessible. The links are always in the description of the videos. And I did them for, how long did I do them for? 13 years. So there's movie podcasts back there that anybody can access. And by archiving them, I only pay a little bit a year. And the hosting platform keeps the podcast there forever. So I'm kind of happy with that. No, Ross, it's not like a pork pie. It's kind of like it's pie with gravy in it and it's served hot. I don't mind a pork pie, an English pork pie. But yeah, meat pies are a great thing. Fantastic Television by Gary Girani. Yeah, that's not a bad one either. It's an amazing trilogy on Tubi, says Indie Fandom, right now called Time Warp about cult movies. It's like a documentary in the form of a great reference book and breaks them down into genres. Okay, I'll have to check that one out as well. John Cutter grabbed a lot of Blu-rays last year. Love the recommendations. Born of Fire. Yeah, Born of Fire I haven't seen for a long time, but I remember liking it. Dwayne Lawrence, Riders of Justice is great. Second endorsement. Great cast with Mads Mikkelsen. Yeah, I like Mads Mikkelsen. I think that he's one of those actors that you like, partly because he goes to the edge. He's not scared of messing with the way people perceive him. And you see Luna's tail there on the side. He's bold in what he does and the choices he makes as an actor. And I like that. I like people who take a chance with their acting, and he's definitely done that. By the way, Luna's tail is just here because she's standing on the desk at the moment. Down you get. There we go. Down you get. She just stuck her claw in my nipple. Yeah, so barbarians are ignorant. There's nothing wrong with being ignorant because ignorance can be taught for wisdom. Troglodyte. No, I think that's unfair to troglodytes. I think that the people who are against the science and in some cases they're innocent. They're uneducated in some ways, and they've been used by some very powerful instrumentalities to spread disinformation. And those people sometimes are victims as much as anybody else is. And in a lot of cases they are. So being persistent in following the science and in vocally saying and standing up for the science, I think is very important. Not a Fascist Slave says, can't wait to see Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Doctor Strange in the Spider-Man movie. And without spoiling it, the post-credit sequence is almost like a trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And that's pretty cool. Dwayne says, any comments on the death of David Gulpilil? Yeah, fantastic actor, fantastic dancer and artist. He's a man who had troubles in his life, but being an Indigenous person in Australia, you can't avoid them. Ever since Walkabout and all the way through to Charlie's Country and other things, he's been a constant in the Australian cinema landscape, and he's been widely respected for his art. Really interesting man. Remember, the last really great thing I've seen, and I haven't seen Charlie's Country yet, is in Goldstone, the sequel to Mystery Road, where he doesn't get much to do, but he uses the little bits he gets in that movie to really populate a character in a way that's mostly physical. It's not verbal, it's not in the dialogue, but there's something powerful about the acting of David Goldblum that is you can't train for, you can't teach, and it can't be learned. It's something innate, and he had that, and he's the first of many, many Indigenous Australian actors that we're going to see. And at the moment, there's a new series that's on AMC Plus called Firebite, which is Indigenous Australians versus vampires. And I've seen this first episode of that. There's only been one episode released yet, and that looks really interesting as well. And it's got Rob Collins, who's a really great actor, and there's about 90% Indigenous cast set in Coober Pedy, an underground town in the outback, and it's just fantastic. Now, Riders of Justice was surprising, a very good subversion of the genre. Really, yeah, I've got to see Riders of Justice. Spring Rolls rock. We have something like that in Gold Cinemas here in the US. There's a place in the Alamo Draft House. I would love to go to the Alamo Draft House. There's a lot of America I don't want to see, but the Alamo Draft House and the New Beverly in Los Angeles are two places I'd love to go to. And let's see. Okay, wait, I'll do that after I get a little bit of time, because I've got to do a bit of post-production on this video in particular. But yeah, are there any other questions that people have? Because I'm really interested in answering the questions that people have while I look around the man cave. By the way, the worst movie of the year, I'm going to say it again. This piece of dreck. I don't even know why I kept it. But this is the worst movie I watched this year. It's just horrible. And if movies on disc looked the way they played, this will be dripping off like a dog turd. It's just the worst. And I'm not watching it again. But I don't know why I'm keeping it. I want to find somebody who will appreciate it, but I don't know anybody that rank really. Let's see. CJ Lady, see you later. Take care in Chicago. Be safe, okay? And have a great holiday season. So, yep. Yep. So, let's see what I've got on my list. I've actually got a list. Got this cute little notebook from Moody yesterday. Let's see. I'm going to let you know what's upcoming in 2022 on the channel. I'm going to so Ross Gilton says, I saw Night in Kabiri a few weeks ago. How do I feel about that film? I like it. I like any Fellini I see. One of the interesting things about Fellini movies for me is that every time I see a Fellini movie, I see more of the possibilities of cinema. It kind of expands my idea of cinema a lot. Indie fandom, you don't want to know. Keith Lemon, the film, you're going to have to look that up because I'm not going to describe it because I'd have to wash my mouth out. But anyway, Night of Kabira, yeah, absolutely. I also like Sweet Charity, the musical version that Bob Fosse did of Night of Kabira. David Kummer, how's it going, David? You staying warm up there, mate? I know what Minneapolis is like, though I've only ever been there in the summer. Hope you're staying well, mate, and keeping your health, because I know you've had a few health things. And yeah, how's everybody handling the Worldcon situation up there? Chengdu getting the Worldcon has messed up with a lot of people, and I love it. Oh, I forgot to do the sound effect for that. John Cutter recently bought Golden Needles as a blind buy after taste testing a few minutes on YouTube. Yeah, Joe Don Baker in a kung fu movie. I'm going to have to pick up a copy of Golden Needles, I think, at some stage, because it's really great. Elizabeth Ashley's in that one as well, and I like Elizabeth Ashley. What's my favorite Peter Weir film, says Dwayne? Let me think. I haven't seen The Last Wave for a long time, so it's possibly not The Last Wave. But Peter Weir film. Let me just bring up my list because I've gone totally blank. Coffee hasn't kicked in yet. So my favourite Peter Weir film. Middle name's Lindsay. Yeah, that's a very Australian thing. Let's see. Probably my favourite one. I like The Cars That Ate Paris because it's wonderfully satirical. And probably my favourite, though favourite's a very kind of difficult point with this movie, is Gallipoli. Really interesting take on British imperialism during World War One. It's got Mel Gibson in it, which, before Mel Gibson became a total nutcase. But Gallipoli is probably my favourite. Let's see. Yeah, hi, Johnny Mac 26. Yep. I mean, I'm going to see the new version of West Side Story. It hasn't come out here yet, but I will see it. I'm not that in love with Steven Spielberg as a director. I think he manipulates people too blatantly with their emotions. I think that when a movie emotionally engages you, I want it to seduce me. I don't want it to stick its cold hand down the front of my pants. And I think that Spielberg's emotional manipulation in a movie is a little too blatant for my tastes. But having said that, I'm an incredibly big Sondheim fan, and I want to see the West Side Story movie when it comes out. I think it's coming out Boxing Day here. Cousin 8 Paris is good. Yep. Have I seen Battle Beneath the Earth? I've done a video about Battle Beneath the Earth. It's on one of my crazy old hidden gem movie videos. Yeah, it is a C movie, definitely. Dead Poet Society changed how you saw the world. Oh, Peter Weir, that. Yeah, Dead Poet Society. I don't know if it plays well now. I think that it's it's a movie of its time, I suppose. Picnic at Hanging Rock. Yeah, most of that is ladies in funny dresses screaming Miranda around the rocks. By the way, Hanging Rock is not too far away from here. I can drive to Hanging Rock in less than an hour from here, depending on traffic. Buckaroo Banzai is a lot of fun. Amontvale says, I like Picnic a lot. I like Picnic too. It's got Kim Novak and William Holden in it. Hang on, let me just get the sound effect. I'll say that again after I got the sound effect right. Hang on a sec. Yeah, I like Picnic a lot. It's got William Holden and Kim Novak in it. There we go. Witnesses, yeah, okay. Teresa, thank you. I love the fact that you love the show. Let's see. Kapil Patel, yeah, thank you for your Harry Palmer suggestions. Thoroughly enjoyed all three. Yep, I got the box set now. I'm not sure whether you were here during that, Kapil, but I've got the Harry Palmer collection now on Blu-ray, which is fantastic. Hey, Teresa, how's things in Florida? Because I've got some friends in Florida. There are a few people I know who are YouTubers who are in Florida, and all of them seem to be in love with really bad Disney movies. Barry Murphy says, my recommendations always inspire further investigation. One of the joys of the internet age is the ability to get lost down yet another rabbit hole of discovery. Absolutely. Rabbit holes. I spend most of my time down rabbit holes when I'm online. Barry Murphy says, today's preoccupation is Italian actress Onwich Fenech. Yeah, I'm researching. What am I currently researching and discovering? One of the things I'm going to do is hidden gem mermaid movies in 2022. I've got two I'm going to put into a video, which is kind of something I've wanted to do for a while. Did they add special features on the Palmer box set? Tons of them. There's too many of them to mention. If you go to the Indicator website, you'll see what the extras are there. But Obwich Finette, incredibly beautiful woman. Not sure she was gifted as an actress, but she looked spectacular and she didn't seem to be adverse to taking her clothes off. Witness with Harrison Ford, love Jenny Agutter in Walkabout. Yeah. Witness is okay. It's not one I love because at its heart, it's a police procedural mixed with a romance and not much more than that. Let's see. Context. Yeah. Let's have a look. But yeah, other things I've got planned. Basically, the rabbit holes I'm going down are mermaid movies at the moment. I'm doing a little more of Commedia all'Italiana, the kind of Italian comedies of the early 1960s, when Italian society was changing very, very rapidly. And there's some interesting films there. So I've got a couple of those up my sleeve that I really want to watch. D. Campbell says, Jenny Agutter has a flat about 5 minutes walk from me in South London. Just don't stalk her, mate. Not a cool thing. But yeah, she's in the MCU as well. She was in, was it Captain America Winter Soldier? Jenny Agutter was in the MCU, which is kind of cool. Interesting to see the actors who are. And recently, there are some actors who were in the Netflix MCU who are being shuffled over. And I've hit the boom arm again, see? There's some actors who were in the Netflix MCU who are moving over to the new one. Let's see. So lucky to see her from time to time. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Everyone's going fanboy on Jenny Agutter, and I can't blame them. To be really honest with you. But yeah, let's see. What else have I been watching? I'm going to bring up on my screen at least my letterboxed, because the next couple of videos I'm doing, I'll tell you about those as well while I do this. The next video I do is going to be the rewatched movies in 2021 that I rewatched in 2021 that I've seen before and that I really enjoyed. And I'm looking forward to doing that one too, because there's some things, well, there's some types of movies I'm going to talk about there that I don't normally talk about on the channel. I'm looking forward to doing that. Mrs. Ward on Severance says John Cutter. I got the photo number featuring Miss Fanning. Mrs. Ward's also on Tubi.tv. No, I'm not doing Mr. Peabody and the Mermaid, John Lee, but I'm doing a couple of other ones. I've got some really nice deep cut mermaid movies for that one. Jenny Agutter was in Red Dwarf too. Well, yeah, nobody's perfect. Feel comfortable enough to travel to America. Middle-aged girls invited also in San Antonio. Well, thanks for that. I'm not sure we can afford to. Actually, I know we can't afford to, and I know at the moment with things as they are, we probably won't be able to. Thriller's interesting too. That's the series Thriller, Ross. Yeah, Jenny Agutter was in that. She did a lot of good character work. Have I seen the Air Zone Solution? No, I haven't, but I'm going to just Google that now. Okay, TV series. So yeah, let's see what we got. Red Dwarf. Yeah, the American pilot for Red Dwarf was bad, though I know middle-aged geek girl is a big Red Dwarf fan. The only Red Dwarf connection I've got is I went to see Craig Charles from Red Dwarf do stand up at the Melbourne Comedy Festival about 23 years ago. And here's what he did. He stood up there, he mugged a lot, and he told jokes that he pinched off the internet. The Air Zone Solution stars Peter Davison and some other Doctor Who people. Yeah, not that big on Doctor Who, because a lot of it's kind of like Doctor Who is, kind of like a Hogwarts school teacher who lectures people, and the sort of the writing on Doctor Who's gone down enormously from everything my Doctor Who fan friends say. It's gone downhill enormously. Featured every actor who was in the classic Doctor Who. So basically, it was a fan service thing. How is it as a standalone movie? Leaving aside the fan service, how is the Air Zone Solution as a standalone piece of work? That's probably the question that I'll be interested in getting an answer to. I'm just reading through the comments here. Yeah, Smeg. There's actually a brand of kitchen appliance called Smeg as well, which is kind of funny. Indie Phantom says, Letterboxd is my second home online. Not sure how I did without it. I like the pro version for the stats. I don't get the pro version. I just use it basically as a way of keeping tabs on what I've been watching over a year, and I do annual ones. According to Letterboxd, I watched 299 movies this year so far, so I'm going to click over to 300. Holly, hi, how you doing? Yeah, so basically I'm going to click over to 300 in probably this afternoon, so that's not too bad. FG says, I thought the story itself was silly sci-fi. Yeah, I think that one of the things with fan service, for me at least, is that I like fan service, and when it tickles my funny bone and it tickles the stuff I like, it's fine. But I've kind of tried to be more nuanced about it, and go, okay, this has got fan service in it, but how does it stand alone as a story? It's really important to me that it does, because I think that fan service as an end to itself isn't useful and it isn't full value. But if you do something that's got fan service in it, and I've hit the boom arm again, if you have something that's got fan service in it, but it also gives you a good story and it gives you more meat on the bone than just the fan service, I think that that's really important. Things like No Time to Die is fan service to a certain extent, but it also gives you a lot more than that. And Spider-Man No Way Home has a lot of fan service in it, but it gives you much more than that. And I think that it's kind of the best way to do it. And in the current environment of popular culture, you've got to have fan service in some way in an ongoing series. But I think it's crucially important to give more than just a pat on the head. I can't really move the boom arm middle-aged girl. Um, yeah, but you miss Sydney. I'm a Sydney boy. I mean, I was born and raised in Sydney. I go there regularly to hang out with the fam. And so I love Sydney. I don't like what real estate developers have done to Sydney, but I love Sydney. And it's a photogenic as hell city. And I take middle-aged geek girl there, and she says she hates Sydney except for the parts of it I take her to. And having my sister and my brother-in-law and my nephew there is keeps me attached to Sydney. Though we've had conversations with the family about Sydney, and they want to get out of there as soon as they can. And because Sydney isn't what it was in the worst possible way. It's become greedy, kind of real estate based culture, and that's never a good thing. Okay, we're off on a Doctor Who tangent in the comments at the moment. Which, I mean, go ahead, do it, but I'm not particularly interested in that for me, because, um, yeah, I just don't think the Doctor Who does it for me. I'm not sure it ever did. Time for another drink while you guys talk about Doctor Who. Mike Rooney, The Haunting, 1963, absolutely. Andromeda Strain, most James Bond. Yeah, The Haunting's great. I'm going to have to rewatch The Haunting, because there's a lot of subtext to the characters in that that's really wonderful. And if people haven't seen The Haunting, you really should. Do I have a favorite streaming service or a physical disc? Still the main deal. Yeah, I've got streaming, and hang on. Okay, is that off mute? Yeah, I think it is. Hang on. Yeah, but it's off mute. Yeah, favorite streaming services. I like Netflix and Amazon Prime. I've got them. I like Tubi because it's free and it's got so much random shit in it. You go into Tubi and you're suddenly watching some kind of Italian giallo movie with vampires in it or something like that. It really does take you down some interesting rabbit holes. And yeah, I kind of watch the thing. I watch individual series. So I watch a few Korean supernatural or science fiction series on Netflix. I'm watching The Expanse, of course, on Amazon, because The Expanse is the best science fiction series of the last few years. And yeah, and Tubi I like. Let's see what else is there. A couple of the Australian government-owned stations or publicly owned stations, like ABC iView and SBS On Demand. show a lot of really random things from other cultures. And I like that, particularly SBS, which is the multicultural broadcasting service here, has a lot of films that I wouldn't see otherwise, and I really appreciate that. They also do random things like a whole season of Bruce Lee movies and stuff like that. Big Rat Killer one, yeah, I watched History of Time Travel earlier. Was different, but not in a bad way. Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, High Striving to Balance, welcome aboard. John Cartier, really greedy real estates, they're the worst. Have I seen The Good, the Bad, and the Weird? Yeah, I saw it years ago, but I haven't seen it lately. Not Morale remake is good. Thanks for that, Johnny Mac 26. I want to see it because I'm a big Guillermo fan, and I'm a fan of both the movie and the book. If you can get a copy of William Lindsay Gresham's book of Nightmare Alley from 1948, I think it is, it's a great read, and it's as much about Gresham's alcoholism as it is about anything else. Have I seen Kinzaza? I've heard about it. I know it's a Russian science fiction movie that was as popular as Star Wars in Russia, but I haven't seen it yet. Didn't I manage to catch all of Peter Jackson's recent Beatles three-parter? No, not that into the Beatles. I was when I was 7. Yeah, 7. But I'm not really that into the Beatles. And um, yeah, I appreciate that Peter Jackson was a big Beatles fan, and a lot of people are. But I'm not going to invest my time into an enormous three-parter detailing the history of the Beatles because I know how it ended. Love my 24-hour watch, says Driving to Balance. Yeah, I did too. Right up until the end when I started getting a bit buggy. But yeah, and Damnation Alley remake. Oh, Damnation Alley was bad. The novel by Roger Zelazny is much better than the movie. I'll give you that much. If you can find it, definitely recommend from me. John Carter says, Get Back was the perfect time travel movie. Speaking of which, he said, and he hasn't finished that yet. Remake of Damnation. Yeah, the thing is that most remakes these days, and there are exceptions that remakes are usually shit and just done for the money, but most remakes these days, the first thing you ask about them is why. And I mean, I can appreciate Spielberg doing West Side Story because you can be truer to the original source material than you could in 1959 when West Side Story first came out. But I'm looking forward to seeing that one, kind of. Let's see. Tubi's your favorite indie Phantom, and now there's an ad blocker that's even better. Shutter, I don't mind. Arrow Player and Mubi, I'm interested in, but I don't want to subscribe to another streaming service at this stage. But I hear good things about it. Damnation Alley is the kind of film that should be remade. Why? It's pretty bad. I'll be honest with you. Damnation Alley is kind of like Megaforce before Megaforce. Yeah, Clooney for the George Papard role. I saw an interesting article about Clooney this week where they said that why is George Clooney such a good actor but not such a good director? Because the movies he makes as a director are professional and kind of good, but they're not great. And Clooney as an actor is much, much more interesting. I'll tell you a big exception to remakes not being better than the originals. The Maltese Falcon. The Maltese Falcon was made twice in the 1930s by Hollywood before the John Huston 1941 version. And it was like the second remake of the movie, and it was the one that really landed. Jackie Earl Haley made his screen debut in Damnation Alley. No, I'm not sure he did. He was before that in Day of the Locust. Let me just check. I'm going to double check this because the Day of the Locust has Jackie Earl Haley in it. And I know this is interesting watching me look things up. Yep, 2 years before Damnation Alley, Jackie Earl Haley got stomped to death by Donald Sutherland in Day of the Locust. Shafate Mars, thank you very much. And I appreciate the fact that you appreciate what I do. Let's see. Yep. Let's have a look. There were Dracula and Frankenstein films before the Universal Classics. Yeah, particularly Nosferatu, which is an unacknowledged version of Dracula. Now, His Girl Friday was remade as a front page. I like His Girl Friday more than I like the front page. Yeah, let's have a look. Remake of Out of Towns with Goldie Hawn and Steve Martin. Haven't watched that one for a long time. The original or the remake. His Girl Friday, yeah. His Girl Friday is fantastic, particularly for the overlapping dialogue. Have I seen The Age of Adeline, Kay Nelson? Yeah, I have, and it's kind of ordinary. Didn't like it at all. I think that it had a good premise, but it didn't do a bloody thing with it. Let's see. What sound effects should I play now? I love having a soundboard. See, talking for 2 hours, your throat does start going, but I'm more than happy to do it. Imagine if I did a 24-hour live stream. Geez, I'd be sounding like Kermit the Frog by the end of it. Oh, yeah. So I think the chat has stalled. But yeah, I kind of want to do more 1970s films as well. I want to do things like Race the Devil. I'll talk about that. And a few other films of that type. And Simon, King of the Witches with Andrew Prine. I want to do more of those movies that I saw in the 70s in cinemas. And that I'm revisiting. And I don't expect them to be fantastically good on a rewatch, but I kind of want to wrap myself in that blanket of nostalgia again and maybe recommend a few of them because there was just so much good 1970s drive-in fodder that was being produced, kind of the way that Netflix is producing kind of B pictures now to fill its own schedules. Drive-in movies were that in the 1970s. Yeah, Clooney's acting. He's done a few things. Do have more purchases to show, says middle-aged geek girl. No, I kind of don't. I've already done the purchases I've got so far on the channel. Let's have a look. Walking Tall, Death Wish, Legend of Billy Jack. Billy Jack itself is good. There's also Rolling Thunder with William Devane, which I've got a copy of on Blu-ray. And I really want to rewatch and talk about that as well. So I'm really looking forward to diving more into the 70s in the new year as well. 32-day live stream for the record. No, I'm not going to do a 32-day live stream because I think that sometimes I like doing videos. I like talking to people about movies, but I'm not going to end up in a straitjacket to do it. The Man from Earth is very good. I talked about that a long time ago on the channel as well. Let's see. That's like an ideal playlist for you, Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Walking Tall, Death Wish. Don't like Death Wish as much. I think that Death Wish is, if you look at it through a kind of sociological lens, Death Wish, both the original and the remake with Bruce Willis, is about privileged white guys protecting their privilege by killing people who are just trying to stay alive and survive. Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones was in Rolling Thunder. He was the mate of William Devane's character. And that was in the days when Tommy Lee Jones didn't look like a scrotum. Rolling Thunder is a recommend. I'm going to do a video about it. I've actually got my little notebook here, and I've got the YouTube ideas on it. And I've got about 5 of these books with YouTube ideas. So I'm definitely going to put Rolling Thunder on there because I've got it, and I really want to look at the Blu-rays. I think it's a Paul Schrader movie as well. I think it was written by Paul Schrader. But yeah, Death Wish doesn't play well, and a lot of those Michael Winner films haven't aged particularly well. Yep. So there's a lot of love for Rolling Thunder because I think, even though it is a revenge movie in that sense, I think that the depth of characterization lands it well. And one of the things with Death Wish and things like that is you don't learn a lot about Paul Kersey apart from the fact that he loves his family. And I think that you're owed more. Yeah, I did see part 2 of The Man from Earth. I've got both of them on Blu-ray. And The Man from Earth is great because it's like low budget science fiction, which is done in conversations, but tells an interesting and mind-blowing story in some ways. If you haven't seen The Man from The Mechanic is probably the best one in the movie. Yeah, the original The Mechanic. The remake with Statham isn't that great. But the original is good because the character of Arthur Bishop, played by Charles Bronson, does have some depth to him and does have some interesting things, particularly in the scenes with Jill Ireland. There's something about Arthur that's deeply broken, and that kind of works well for the stuff. Long and the short of the tall, yeah, I haven't seen that one for a long time, but I do remember liking it. Yeah, Sweet Sweetback's badass song. I'm going to do some more blaxploitation as well. Things like the Mac. I may even do Superfly at some stage in the future. There's just so much good content on that. One of the other things I'm going to do is movie documentaries that I like, movie music documentaries I like. And I'm going to be doing things like What Stacks. If you haven't seen What Stacks, you should check that one out. Framed with Joe Don Baker. Yeah, Death Wish 2 is much better than the original. Yeah, Canon films are a kind of acquired taste. There are some Canon films I like, but there are a lot of them that I wouldn't cry if they disappeared. Uh, yeah, Jan Michael Vincent and Bronson and the Mechanic, absolutely. It works, and the European locations make it work even better. I think and Keenan wins in that one as well, as I recall. So yeah, Wattstacks. Barry Murphy, you're right. Wattstacks is great. I'm halfway through a rewatch of Wattstacks, and just from the sociological point of view of black people in the early 1970s in Los Angeles, having this enormous concert with every kind of black music in it. It's magnificent. It also starts with one of my favorite songs of the era, which is "What You See Is What You Get" by the Dramatics. And they interview people like Richard Pryor and Ted Lang, who played Isaac in The Love Boat, and a whole bunch of different black community people from the time, and intermix that with the music. What Stacks is just an experience, and I'm going to do a video about that at some stage in the future. Mr. Majestic, yeah, I haven't seen Mr. Majestic for a while, but I remember people shooting watermelons with shotguns. I'm going to have to go there. Rufus Thomas was great in What Stacks, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. There's just that's the thing with this channel. There's just so much stuff to dig up and show to people. It's never going to. I'm never going to get through everything that I want to do on this channel, but it's yeah. There's just every now and then I'll kind of see a thread and just pull it, and it'll bring out memories of movies that I've seen or movies that I've wanted to see for a long time. Near the end of your 1950s Kirk Douglas one, Man Without a Star is a film probably deserves to be remembered more than this. Yeah, Man Without a Star is good. Douglas did a whole bunch of interesting films in the 1950s and also into the cities in the 60s with things like Lonely Are the Brave and 7 Days in May. Just the best. Coffee with Pam Grier. Yeah, Pam Grier exploitation movies, absolutely. Coffee and Foxy Brown, all of those ones are great. Yeah, the 70s were great because you got to think about it in this way. Up until the 1960s, censorship was there, and white people were pretty much all you saw on cinema in any meaningful way. And then suddenly, late 60s, early 1970s, the censorship in America loosened, and other voices came into the fold. Things like Cotton Comes to Harlem and Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. And suddenly you've got minorities just finding their voice in cinema. Though there is a history as far back as Oscar Michaud of black cinema, and very much marginalized. But suddenly there's an explosion of creativity, an explosion of stories, and explosions of just different voices in different parts of the world being kind of put out there in the media. And it's the most wonderful blossoming of creativity. Yeah, The Warriors is great. Car Wash is great as well. Lonely Are the Brave is a masterpiece. The Warriors is, yeah, you really should watch it on Blu-ray, I think. And I'm not sure whether the director's cut is better than the other cut. Yeah, the Internecine Project with James Coburn, I like that. I also like Harry in Your Pocket and Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round. Coburn did some interesting films in the late 60s. Yeah, John Cotter, I agree. The original of the Warriors is better without the cartoon bits. I think that it's tighter, and it's just and the fact that it's based on a 2500-year-old story makes it even better. Yeah, Ted Langford Love, but you should see him in What Stacks because he's talking about his experiences as a black man growing up in Los Angeles in the 50s and 60s. And there's just so much kind of oral history that comes into this, along with a fantastic concert film. What Stacks is fantastically well recommended. It's hard to find, and I had trouble finding a copy of it, but it is mind-blowingly good. It really is something that you should check out. By the way, a middle-aged gig girl said she will turn up on camera at some stage, so maybe she can leave the moderation for a little bit and come and say hi to people. Trouble Man soundtrack is fantastic. I agree. Hitman with Bernie Casey is less good, but Trouble Man soundtrack, which gets a mention in the MCU, it's one of the things that Sam recommends to Steve Rogers in I think one of the Captain America movies. He recommends the Trouble Man soundtrack to Steve Rogers for him to get up to speed on 21st century and all the stuff that Steve missed out on since World War II. And I like the fact that they name check that and mention it because it is a solid soundtrack. It's just incredibly listenable. Like a lot of that music from the time, it's brilliant. And I like it when modern culture and modern things as kind of culturally prominent as the MCU reference marginalized, but really, really fantastic popular culture from the rest of from earlier times. I'm looking through this. Sorcerer, the remake. Wages of Fear, I prefer to Sorcerer, to be honest with you. Here she comes. She's coming in to say hi. So I'm going to move aside slightly so she can crouch down and say hi. There's middle-aged gig girl. Yay! Yep. So you can talk into the mic if you like.
Please stop hitting the boom arm.
Yeah, I'll try to stop hitting the boom arm.
It's very frustrating. Hello, everybody. Bags under my eyes. Terry got me up too early to moderate for him. But Merry Christmas to everybody. And yes, I'm a proud Smeghead too.
There you go.
And Luna's with me. Luna's asleep with me in the other room. So I shall leave now and you can go on continuing talking about all of those movies my dad used to like.
Yeah, well, your father's got okay taste. I mean,
yeah, Merry Jingle Bells.
There she goes. She's wandering off out of the man cave to her particular zone. But I thought I'd bring her. Heights driving to Balance, Birmingham, Alabama. Yeah, great. Nice to see everybody represented from everywhere on this clay and granite planet. This is fun. This is good doing this. But yeah, the 70s is that sweet spot for me, and I'll give you a bit of background for it because I probably should. And I hit the boom arm again. One bonkers 1970s movies. Watch anything by Ken Russell. Yep. Yeah, but Ken Russell did $1 Billion Brain, the third of the Harry Palmer movies, and the craziest of the Harry Palmer movies, and that's good too. But yeah, so basically what happened was I had a brutal childhood. My father was physically abusive in a lot of ways, and I escaped in movies. And when I was 15, he made me leave school and go to work. So I was working in factories from the age of 15. And after work, I would go and hide by going to the movies. You know, on payday, particularly, I'd go to the movies and watch 2 movies in the city, which is like 30 kilometers away. And I'd watch a whole bunch of exploitation movies, and that's where I came from. Any thoughts about how we're about to enter the year in which Solar Green has said? We don't have the overpopulation problem that Solar Green had. We don't have to eat each other because we actually learned how to make crops better. One of the great innovations of the last 50 years is they started growing wheat shorter wheat stalks used to be like 1.5 meters tall, but then they started growing them that tall with the heads on them. And so we're able to we can feed everybody in the world. There is starvation in the world. We've got a distribution problem. We don't have a food problem, and we probably won't for another century. And so Soil and Green isn't going to happen. But I like Edward G. Robinson in that. I'm not as in love with Charlton Heston, but I love Edward G. Robinson in it. Okay, let's see. I'm reading through this. Yeah, I'm going to have to actually dive into the Creative Shames because I've got some good non-English language cinema in there. I took a look in the Creative Shame again, and yeah. No Bay Grass and Zero Population Growth may be on Tubi.tv. Well, the rich aren't going to end up on the menu because billionaires, at least, they're not going to feed everybody if you cut them up. Let's have a look there. ZPG is on YouTube. Yep. ZPG is an interesting movie, particularly Oliver Reed playing against type in that one with Geraldine Chaplin. It's got a great look to it too. I think it was filmed somewhere in Scandinavia, and it's got a very non-American and non-English look about it, which is really appreciated. But I saw ZPG originally in cinemas back in the day, and in those days it landed better than it did now. I'm going to hit the cough button now. You're right, Dick Hammer. It was filmed in Denmark, and I like that. I like that kind of. There's a European science fiction vibe that you can get by shooting science fiction movies in countries all across Europe, even in Eastern Europe. It's got a really nice feel about it. Even things like Aniara has got a very much a Swedish flavor about it in the science fiction, even though it's set on a spaceship in the future. It's really a kind of a vibe I like when it comes to futurism. And but also things like just the way Swedish and Scandinavian furniture is. It's got that kind of minimalist, futuristic look about it that just lends itself to science fiction movies. One of the other things I'm going to dip into in the future on the channel as well is Wakaliwood, the Ugandan action cinema that started in Wakaliwood in Uganda. Things like Who Killed Captain Alex is just fantastic action cinema that costs $200 to make, and half the guns in that movie are sticks, basically. It's really great. Lance Hendrickson, The Visitor, never saw it, but it's bonkers. Cloud Atlas, don't like Cloud Atlas. It's got all these white people with Asian makeup in it, and I don't think it tells the story particularly well. Favorite documentary? I've got a number of documentaries I like. There are just so many of them. I've done some videos about documentaries, but at the moment I'm just kind of fixated on What Stacks as the documentary I really appreciate most right at the moment. And I'm going to sit down and watch that all the way through from the start. I went halfway through it, but then I had other things I needed to do. But I'm going to rewatch that because I think that it's got an urban energy about it that you can't fake. Will I ever do TV shows on the channel or just movies? I've done TV shows before, Middle Age Geek Girl. As a regular thing, one of the problems with doing TV shows is you've got to spend a lot of time watching entire seasons of TV shows. And even though there are TV shows that I appreciate, I'm not sure I'm going to go through like 10 seasons or something just to do a 17-minute video. I can kind of weigh things up and find a way to do that with certain series, but there's a lot of people doing recent TV shows on YouTube, and I want to kind of differentiate the channel. And you hit that boom arm again. I'm going to have to pad that thing, I think. But I want to differentiate myself from what everybody else is doing, because if you go into YouTube now, everybody's talking about Spider-Man No Way Home and doing reaction videos to that. And everybody's talking about The Expanse at the moment, and everybody's talking about Hawkeye. So you can get lost in the crowd. You've got to find your own path and your own stream. And my one is the hidden gems and the older stuff and new movies, but hidden gems as well. So I'm kind of mining that particular stream at the moment. If you get into series too much, and particularly recent ones, you're just lost in the noise. Colin says, I watch Wild Palms after seeing your video. Yeah, I love Wild Palms. It's just so steampunky. It's got an incredible cast. Nick Mancuso's in there as well. I don't think James Belushi's particularly great, but Robert Loggia's in there, Angie Dickinson. Just so many good actors in Wild Palms. Yeah, middle-aged girl. I think some reaction videos are good. I know Tengi Talks Movies and TV. She does a really good reaction video because she knows cinema. And I think reaction videos are great for people who have deep knowledge of cinema. You can add value to the reaction, but I don't know that everybody does that. I think they're just sitting there going, and not necessarily great. Let's have a look here. Yeah, does anybody like reaction videos? Because I'm not going to do them, but there are a few that I like, but I think that they're the rare gems amongst them. Yeah, if I did a reaction video, I tend to go like this when I'm watching I'd say a trailer for something I want to see. Okay. That'd be my reaction video. Yeah, people discovering cinema is a lot of fun. I like being a kind of funnel that people can kind of be fed, not be fed, but be encouraged to watch certain things. I was actually talking with my friend Morris about this over coffee on Friday in the city, and we agreed that he does podcasts. He does music podcasts, and one of the things we agreed is there's no use having knowledge if you don't share it. If you keep knowledge to yourself and keep all the things you know about movies, in this case, to yourself, there's a real kind of egotism and a selfishness to that I don't want to do. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the keeper of the knowledge. I want to be the sharer of the knowledge. And I think that probably that's my best self, is to do that. Alan, Nightmare Alley hasn't come out here in Australia. It's coming out on Boxing Day, so I'm going to watch it at some stage. But at this stage, I haven't seen Nightmare Alley. I've seen the original. I rewatched it this year, in fact. But I haven't seen it. I really should reread the novel. Just give me a second. I'm going to get up here. And I've just knocked the microphone all to crap. A few seconds. There's the original novel of Nightmare Alley, William Lindsay Gresham. And it's good. For a 1940s movie, it's got a lot of adult material in it, which is always appreciated. But it's a novel you should really read because it's just the best. Australian Man says, I was invested in reactors after watching reactions to The Thing, Alien, and Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, but I think that, again, you've got to have that basic grounding in cinema already. Having people get shocked by watching the chest burster in Alien. I saw people in cinemas get shocked by that. I don't need to watch it again. Dead of Night. I've seen Dead of Night, and I think I've talked about it on the channel as well, Dwayne. There's an earlier video where I talked about Dead of Night in a video I did about anthology horror movies. Yeah, Barry Murphy says, Tengi I like, but very snobby about reaction videos. I have no interest in seeing little twebs overreacting to Bohemian Rhapsody. But how else do you learn it? Yeah, definitely Nightmare Alley, Middle-Aged Geek Girl. Yeah, you learn cinema by watching, but your reactions aren't as interesting as watching the movies themselves. Yeah, I think the learning process is kind of amazingly fun to watch, but for me, I'm still a student of cinema. I mean, I'm learning myself, so uh, yeah, there are a couple of reaction channels that I watch, but for the most part, I and this is maybe my snobbery showing, and I'm fully willing to accept that. But I like to watch people who know about things rather than people discovering things. In a sense, I want someone I can learn from rather than someone I can teach. If in a sense, um, yeah. But again, that's different thing. And again, because we've only got so many hours in a day when we can view things, we tend to kind of ration what we watch and that kind of stuff. Anybody want to know about the channels I watch that are really off the wall? Because I watch some YouTube channels that are very, very different from the kind of things that I do. Was it a version of the Maltese Falcon with David Soul or Casablanca? I know there was a Casablanca TV series with David Soul in the 1980s, which wasn't very good. Yeah, so let me I'm going to turn the TV on. I've got a TV over here, just so I can use it as a reference for the channels that I watch. So I'll flick over to YouTube, which you guys can't see. But what the subscription to the channels I watch. There's a channel called Wilderness Cooking, and this is totally off the wall. And I kind of like cooking channels to a certain extent. But there's one called Wilderness Cooking, which doesn't have any dialogue in it. It's got some words on the screen at various times. But it's this guy in Azerbaijan doing outdoor cooking, and he'll cook things like he does a whole lamb or lamb brisket, and he'll find different ways in the mountains of Azerbaijan. He grabs local ingredients. He'll do carrots and other things while he's cooking meat and stuff like that. And he'll feed his pet goat a carrot while he's cooking and all this other stuff. It's in this beautifully scenic location in Azerbaijan. And what he does is he prepares food in different ways. He's got like a pizza oven. He's got open fires. He went out in the countryside and made a tent out of glad wrap, like cling wrap and tree trunk and tree limbs, and cooked a meal inside that. It's really relaxing television viewing, and it's a really odd but very different channel. I mean, I also watch Red Letter Media because I like Red Letter Media. I like what they do with movie reviewing. Let's have a look. There's another channel which is very relaxing called Foxes Afloat, which is a gay couple in the UK who own a narrowboat on the canals. And they just go traveling around talking about the history of the canals with their dog Otis. And they just kind of cruise around and talk about that. And they do some really interesting cinematography on that as well. Let's have a look here. If you want a movie channel that I recommend incredibly, Accented Cinema. It's about Asian cinema done by an Asian guy living in Canada. Accented Cinema is just the best if you want to learn more about Asian cinema. Every single one of his videos is a masterclass in Asian cinema, and it teaches me things all the time. Do I watch any arts, craft, or hobby channels? Middle-aged Geek Girl? No, I don't. Let's have a look here. Just going through. I've subscribed to so many channels. It's ridiculous. I've got to get rid of some of these. Cassette Boy. If you haven't heard about Cassette Boy does UK political satire by mixing up rap songs out of Boris Johnson's speeches. Colin Watts says, do I play video games? I'm playing Destiny 2. I'm hooked on Destiny 2. I dabble with Animal Crossing. But yeah, Cassette Boy is a definite recommend. Movie channels, I do like Heath over at Serial at Midnight. He does some interesting stuff. Let's have a look here. There's a really weird one called Chief McCoy, who's a Filipino engineer on a freighter. Basically, what he does is he travels around the world aboard from, carrying freight from one place to another. And he talks about the process of transporting freight on enormous container ships. And that's a month of us subscribed to 954 YouTube channels. Thanks for turning on the notifications, mate. But Chief McCoy is really interesting because he gives you the inside stuff on the process of transporting things from one place to another. Johnny Mac 26 says, I fly drones. Ever tried it? I've got a DJI Mavic Mini, which is right there, which I haven't got out yet. I've had it for a year. But I think this summer I really need to get into flying my drone because I want to do it, and I want to do some kind of B-roll for the channel that I can put in the background of drone shots. D. Camoya, Dust is a channel that showcases short films. Science fiction short film. Dust is a good channel. I'm subscribed to that one. Let's have a look here. I like Colin Firth's channel where he makes weird machinery. And he lives in England, and he's also building a tunnel from his workshop into his shed and into his house and into an underground bunker he's already built. And Cinnamon Upon, I'm going to have to try that one. So thanks for the tip, Alan. Let's have a look. Korua Crew, I'll look at because they do special effects stuff for movies. Let's have a look here. Some of the channels I'm subscribed to haven't been active for a very long time. One of the things that Middle-Aged Geek Girl and I do watch is Dashcam Owners Australia, which is basically dashcam footage from around Australia. And we see people doing stupid things on the roads. And occasionally our local area shows up and you see a whole bunch of dickheads crashing cars or driving ridiculously on it. The dashcam channels are ridiculously addictive. Let's have a look at what other channels I like. Dom Tomato, probably the best free runner at the moment, parkour guy. Dom Tomato is a guy from Adelaide here in Australia who does incredible parkour. And if you haven't seen his stuff, he's just next level. At the moment, he's nursing some injuries because he did his shoulder and his ankle. But Dom Tomato stuff, he's actually sponsored by Red Bull for a lot of this content he does. But he's like next level parkour stuff that you're just going to look at and go, wow. Are things about to get crazier there or better? Says Breakfast at Midnight. We've got Omicron starting to come in here, so they're going to get crazier for a while. But I'm trying to do things as smart as I can to protect us. And I think that we're going to have to just persevere through this, follow the science, be smart, wear masks when you're in closed spaces. So we'll see how we go. Yeah, there was that Chelyabinsk dashcam footage when the meteor hit. And What are you talking about, Middle-Aged Geek? I'm not following all of the chat because it's scrolling past way too fast. So let me just go up and see what I've got there. Oh, well, I'll leave that one for now. So let's see, what else do I watch? Let's have a look. I try to watch some small movie YouTubers to encourage them. So there are a few that I watch there. I watch your arts and crafts channel all the time, Middle-Aged Geek Girl, because you are the best. So I think I've settled that issue. Let's see what else we've got here. I'm only up to the juicy. There's a guy called Jeff Marshall who does videos about the train system in the UK. And Jeff does some interesting stuff. Ross Gilton says, do I have an interest in film music? I've got a lot of friends who do, but I don't particularly have an interest in it. But I know a lot of people, particularly up in Canberra, who are big filkers, but not for me. Yep, not a fascist slave. Yeah, I mentioned that about Hugh Jackman. And yeah, he's not the best person, let's put it that way. Let's have a look. Who else watch? Greg Lilio, Greg's Big Eats. Greg, I like Greg's stuff because Greg does reviews of hawker stands in Singapore and the Chinese and Asian food that you get in hawker stands in Singapore. And I love watching his channel because, he'll compare two different kinds of Hokkien mee and things like that. And I learn more about Asian food, which I like a lot, by watching Greg's Big Eats. So I watched that one. Let's have a look here. Okay, just trying to see. James Hoffman. James Hoffman's channel is fantastic because he does coffee stuff. He's like a fantastic coffee brewer. He runs a coffee roasting company in the UK and does some really interesting coffee related stuff. And being a coffee snob, I love James Hoffman's channel as well. Ross Gilton says, I listened to the Manhattan Transfer's Twilight Zone song the other day and it was quite impressed. Yeah, I don't mind a bit of Mantran. They did some good stuff. They did some stuff that's a bit cringy these days, but Manhattan Transfer is not bad at all. Let's see, who else have I got here? Middle-aged Geek Girl. I watch her channel too. Yeah, yeah, I like that one too. Where Tom Scott was made to hate coffee less by James Hoffman. That was a lot of fun. Let's have a look. I watch Mr. Beast because everybody watches Mr. Beast. I watch Uncle Roger's videos because I like what Nigel Ungs does. Let's have a look here. There's an Australian cooking channel called Nat's What I Reckon, which I recommend because Nat does some really interesting food, and he's a lot of fun as well. Let's have a look. You could go. We need to link to yours, and yeah, Sally, put your link up on the chat for people, please. Let's have a look here. One of the ones that's a little bit lateral for me is Patrick is Navajo, which is a reaction video channel to a certain extent, where the guy called Patrick and his two friends, who are Navajo people living in Navajo lands in America, and just the cultural difference and the way things are perceived by Navajo people is really interesting to me, and they're always a lot of fun, and the guys always seem to be having a good time. Let's have a look here. Pitmaster X I like because he does cooking stuff, mostly with meat, and I like eating meat. So that's another channel. Let's have a look here. I won't do too many more of these. Scott Atkins, the guy who does kind of medium low budget action films, he's got a channel talking about the process of doing action cinema, and I like his stuff. So there's Middle-Aged Geek Girls channel up there, two music video channels, Space Wave and Psychedelic Muse, lots of cyberpunk style, Go Chill and Down Tempo. I'm going to keep an eye on that one, DCamo, so thanks for that. Let's see. Simone Getz, who's a maker, she makes things, and she has different projects she makes. She wants to make a chandelier. She made a whole bunch of different technological things. I like a good maker channel, and maker channels are a lot of fun as well. Let's have a look here. I like Tabby Eats, which is Shinichi and Satoshi, who live in Tokyo. and to do food videos. I like what they do as well because we missed Japan. We went there in 2019 and we missed Japan. And so I subscribe to a number of Japanese channels for that reason. Soft Dorothy, yep, have a nice dinner. Take care, and we will catch you on the flip side. I will be doing a live stream in January too, by the way. There's 3 or 4 versions of Shaft. Isn't there like a 3rd version of Shaft as well, Not a Fascist Slave? Yeah, Tabby Eats is fun to watch. I mean, I do like Sinisians, so she do great fun, and I'll just do a couple more. Tinky Talks TV and Movies. I talked about her channel. I like hers. Let's have a look here. Trailers from Hell too. The channel, I think it's Alan Arkush does, where they have professional movie makers talk about classic movie trailers. They're great. Mick 507, how any film magazines I like. I've gone off film magazines because film magazines have died mostly. Just give me a second. I used to read Cinefantastique. I used to look at Psychotronic Video. I've got a bunch of film magazines up there, but I don't access them very much anymore, unfortunately. What franchises do I particularly not care for, apart from the obvious one that starts with Lucasfilm? Fast and Furious I watch, but I don't really love. That franchise I don't particularly care for. Some of the Disney franchises, apart from the MCU, I'm not a great fan of. I do like the James Bond stuff, but mostly it tends to be movie franchises that are inexplicably popular to me. I don't understand why they're popular. They're not particularly stuff that I like watching. Not a fascist slave. Do I like kaiju movies? I did a 24-hour marathon of Godzilla movies. If you go back into the playlist of my 24-hour movie marathons, you're going to find out whether I like kaiju movies. Let's just say that. Transformers franchise? No, that's one of the ones I don't like. Don't like Hotel Transylvania, but I know middle-aged geek girl loves it, and she keeps threatening to hold me down and prop open my eyes like Malcolm McDowell in A Clockwork Orange, so I'll watch that one, but I won't. Pierce Film Productions channel is interesting into movies, special effects, and modern building. Thanks for that. Buckaroo Banzai is a great lost franchise. I think it had potential, but I'm not sure how much further it could have gone. I mean, I like the concept of the kind of updated Doc Savage kind of thing, but I would have liked to have seen more scripts before I made a commitment to that. Looking forward to the new Matrix movie. I saw the Matrix in Adelaide when it first came out, and to be honest with you, I'm not that impressed with the Matrix movies. I think that for me at least, they tend to be more style than substance. I've got a lot of respect for Keanu. I like the John Wick franchise. I like Bill and Ted. But the Matrix for me is style over substance, and I want a little more meat on the bone than that. Recent Planet of the Apes franchise was one you're glad to open your heart to, Alan. Yeah, I didn't like it that much because I'm kind of over apocalypses. Let's just put it that way. Because we're currently living through a kind of baby apocalypse. Not that fond of apocalyptic movies these days. Unreal Engine's Matrix games on PS5 is a wonder to watch. Wow, Breakfast at Midnight. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. By the way, if people see that little dollar sign down the bottom of the chats, you can donate. Thank you, Breakfast at Midnight. I appreciate your contribution. Anyone remember a really low-grade Dungeons and Dragons movie called Hawk the Slayer? Yeah, does that also have Bernard Bresslaw playing as Cyclops, or am I thinking of something else? Elf with the Self-Repeating Crossbow is definitely a reason to rewatch Hawk the Slayer. Though that might have been one of the other ones. If they ever make a sequel to Buckaroo Banzai, I think they should definitely be called Buckaroo Bonsai. Hang on, I've got a sound effect for that one. The Buckaroo Bonsai thing. And this one. Yeah, Breslau was in Kroll. I apologize. I like Bernard Breslau. He did a movie called The Ugly Duckling, which came out just before The Nutty Professor, which does exactly the same thing. I really should look at The Ugly Duckling at some stage of the future video, because it's kind of an interesting one that came out just before and probably influenced The Nutty Professor. Yeah, Jack Palance was the baddie in Hawk the Slayer. Yeah, I did see Hawk the Slayer back in the day, but I don't remember much about it at all. They did a few of those kind of fantasy movies in England at the time. Have I seen any fan edit movies? I probably have, but I can't recall which ones I've seen. I did see the person who did a shot-for-shot remake of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that was kind of a passion project. Yeah, Kroll was a weird movie because I didn't like it that much. I think that when you have a fantasy movie that's too much influenced by Star Wars, you're going to be kind of crossing your genres, a bit like crossing the streams in Ghostbusters. It's not going to end well. That makes such a resonant sound when I hit that boom arm. Yeah, zombie movies. Yeah, I'm over zombie movies. W. Morgan Shepard had a cool repeating crossbow in Hawk the Slayer, but don't remember much else. He was also in Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, playing the baddie in that. Yeah, that Raiders remake is. Does anybody really need a new Indiana Jones movie? I know they're in post production of one at the moment, but again, that's a kind of sequel. You go, why? Why are people doing this? And the answer is inevitably and only money. It'll make money, and that's the reason they will make it. There's a recent article I'm actually reading at the moment about how risk adverse big budget movie making is at the moment. Let's see, Jeff Bridges' debut, The Yin and Yang, Mr. Go, directed by Burgess Meredith. I saw it a long time ago, but was that Jeff Bridges or was it John Voight? Is there a simple primer on film criticism you could look up? Any film criticism by Pauline Kael. If you can find her book, she did some great film essays. They're the things I like. If you want to look broader in criticism, Kenneth Tynan did a couple of books on theatre criticism, from which I learned a lot about criticism in general. So basically, the best primer for film criticism is watching a lot of films and thinking it through. Just sit back afterwards and have a shandy and think it through. Blade Runner and 2049. I think Blade Runner again is style over substance. 2049 I like better because the style was much better. But did I see Jungle Cruise? Yeah, I mentioned it in my worst movies of the year. I know a lot of people liked it more than I did, but for me, it was one of the worst movies I watched this one. Well, you got to remember, Indiana Jones basically stole a lot of its shtick from Secret of the Incas with Charlton Heston from 1954. But yeah, never didn't like Prometheus either. Alien. Here's the thing with the Alien franchise, and we're talking about franchises that I don't particularly like. Alien was a haunted house movie set in space, and then Aliens came along and turned it into an action piece. And after that, the law of diminishing returns came in, and then they got Prometheus and all of those ones. And I just don't think we need to know the backstory of who created the aliens and stuff like that. I think it's self-limiting. I think that the more you know, the less scary it becomes. I've seen Dune, but I'm not going to review Dune until I see the second half of it. I want to see the full experience of it. It's a bit like reviewing Kill Bill Volume 1. You don't find out when she actually kills Bill until Volume 2. I think I'm going to wait for the second one and then review both of them. And yeah, I do like Space. I like Edgar Wright Space. I like Simon Pegg in it. I like Nick Frost. Yeah, Space just works. If I was to make a film, what genre would it be? I think it would be a fictionalized autobiography. Yeah, Space I recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and it's meta as hell. Yeah, here's my theory, and I'll include Pirates of the Caribbean with this. Any movie based on a Disney ride is going to lose me because we don't have a Disneyland here. The nearest Disneyland's in Hong Kong. So we don't have that emotional attachment to Disneyland rides that other countries have. So Jungle Cruise, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, that kind of stuff just doesn't play for me. Yeah, but Soylent Green, No Blade of Grass, and ZPG. I think if I was going to rank those three, I'd go No Blade of Grass, directed by the wonderful Cornell Wilde, ZPG, then Soylent Green. I think Soylent Green is the least of the three. Yeah, we did decide not to go to Disneyland or to Universal Studios in Japan because we were there. We were thinking of going to Disney or Disney Sea. We were thinking of going to Universal Studios. But here's what we decided in Japan. Yeah, middle-aged kid girl can back me up on this. We decided we wanted to see Japanese things, not Japanese iterations of American things. So we went to the Ninja Museum out in Iga Prefecture, which is like 2.5 hours out of Osaka on little local trains to see a ninja museum instead of going to Disney and to Universal. And we did those cultural things, and we just wandered through the streets of Tokyo and Osaka, and we went to Hiroshima rather than going to Disney or Universal because I think going to a theme park is not as much fun as going to a castle where they actually had ninjas. Yeah, Phase 4 is good too. Fantastic Voyage I don't like that much because I could never get past the scientific inaccuracies in that one. But Phase 4 is a kind of masterpiece of that particular kind of cinema. Let's see. Inner Space plays it for laughs, and I kind of appreciate that much. But yeah, I think Martin Short was too over the top in that movie. I think that he diminished it in a sense. Does Australia have castles? That's a kind of touchy point at the moment because this week there were, those inflatable jumping castles. There were some in Devonport, Tasmania for the end of school year for some kids, and the jumping castles got blown away and 5 kids died. So yeah, we have castles, but it's a bit of a soft point at the moment. Yeah. Well, what I think should be happening with genre cinema is I like the fact that Marvel has got that 80-year history of comic books to draw on. But I think that one of the things that's going to be interesting is more and more people using science fiction short stories and novelettes to make movies. I think that's great. Now, Denis Villeneuve says he's going to do Arthur C. Clarke's Rendezvous at Rama as his next movie after Dune. And I think that's a mistake because if you've ever read Rendezvous at Rama by Arthur C. Clarke, it's a fucking boring movie. It's a really boring book. It's dull. It's Shaggy Dog's story. Basically, a large artifact comes into the solar system. A spaceship goes out and meets it. They explore some kind of generic things and then leave as it leaves the solar system. That's it. That's the whole story. There's no characterization. There's no arc. There's no sense of enlightenment. And Denis Villeneuve is going to make a movie about it. I think he really needs to move 60s and look at much more recent science fiction movies to make a movie from. We do have castles in Middle Age. You could go to a Cryal Castle. But yeah, we don't have the castles the way that other countries have castles. What we have instead is the longest continuing culture in the world, 80,000 years of Indigenous culture in Australia. Nathaniel DeBell. Hey, Nathaniel, how you doing? We've got to catch up. What unadapted science fiction books would I like to see made into films? I want to see a Neuromancer book. I want to see some William Gibson adapted into films. I think that'd be kind of interesting. I know they're doing some Octavia Butler novels. I think that they are going to be really interesting to do. I want to see an action film based on Stephen Barnes' Street Lethal, which is a near future kind of cyberpunk action thing. I think that'd be great to do. I want to see some. I want to see a whole bunch of things based on non-white people science fiction, basically, and there's a lot of really good non-white science fiction novels and stories coming out at the moment. Johnny Mac 26, thanks for the £5 super chat. Appreciate that. Ringworld, yeah, Ringworld would be okay, but I think Ringworld will work better as a series on a streaming service. Ross Gilton says, really like Cornel while watching Naked Prey. Naked Prey's great. Saw him in an episode of Night Gallery. He also did a movie called Gargoyles, which was done for TV as well. Yeah, Brian Edwards, Jack Vance. Jack Vance has built such beautifully layered worlds in his stories. But it's going to be really difficult to adapt, I think, to the medium. I want to see some other Frank Herbert novels adapted as well. There's a thing called the Dosadi Experiment, which is really interesting. So I think that that could work as a movie as well. Let's have a look there. Yeah, I met Larry Niven as well in the 80s, come to think of it. I haven't seen Repo the Genetic Opera, not yet. It's been recommended to me, but I haven't been able to catch up with it yet. A Fletch reboot with John Hamm. Yeah, I can see that, because Fletch, if it's based more on the novels than it is based on the Chevy Chase movies, the novels do have a certain kind of whimsical wonderfulness and groundedness about them. That would work better. What reboots would I be happy to see? I want to see the next story. I mean, my thing is always, tell me the next story. Don't keep telling me the last story. I think that that's the way I want to go. Ian M. Banks, yeah, absolutely. Ian M. Banks books would be great. The culture novels, because they're kind of socialist utopias set in space, and I like that. Gattaca, I like. The camera, I like Gattaca a lot. I think that it's science fiction done right as a genre film, and it goes to the heart of what good science fiction is. Let's have a look here. What reboots would I be happy to see? I really can't think of any at the moment. Discworld movies. I met Terry Pratchett a couple of times, and he was a pig. So I'm not in love with Terry Pratchett's work. I think that he was a standoffish, snobby kind of guy, and I really didn't like his stuff ever since then. And sometimes you can't separate the person from the work when you met them. A thing like The Wheel of Time. Robert Jordan turned up at a science fiction convention in the 90s in Perth, Western Australia. And he was on a number of panels, as you tend to be when you're a guest at a science fiction convention. And he was a racist, sexist arsehole. He said he didn't know any black science fiction novels. He didn't know of any black science fiction writers. Though Chip Delaney had been doing it for 30 years. He dismissed female writers. He talked over female writers who were on panels with him. He was just a total pig. So I won't watch Wheel of Time because I won't give any oxygen to the works or careers of Robert Jordan. That's interesting, Lee. Thank you for saying that. You had a letter from Ian Banks a week before he died. I heard so much good about Ian Banks as a person, and the universal love that he received when he died. Yeah, he was one of the good people. Johnny Mac 26, maybe a remake of Battle. To Soundboard if I need to. I haven't even watched it. Have we had any adventures in the US? Because I've been to the United States in '98. Sally hasn't been to the United States, so I had some adventures, but I can't really talk about them. Don't read Battlefield Earth. L. Ron Hubbard was a huckster bastard. Yeah, Wheel of Time stuff now. Game of Thrones. I mean, I've got a first edition, paperback edition Game of Thrones signed by George R.R. Martin here in 1995. George and Paris, his partner, are lovely people. They support other creative people. He worked for 30 odd years as a writer before he got any traction at all from a monetary point of view. Paris was working in bars and things like that before Game of Thrones became big. And their success is purely due to both of them as a team persisting. And I've got endless time for George. I met him a couple of times casually, and he's a lovely man. And Paris, his partner, is lovely as well. Dinner in America, I'll add that to the list. Thank you. Atlas Shrugged was crap. The 3 Atlas Shrugged movies, which were made on shoestring budgets because nobody wanted to do them. It wasn't an Ayn Rand fanboy. Are atrociously bad. I kind of. I'm not broken. Believe me, I'm unbreakable at this stage. Mr. D. Yeah. Nah, nobody broke me because I am unbreakable. I'm resilient as hell. I'm not sure about Meow Wolf installations, but there is a George R.R. Martin novel I want to see adapted as a short series, Tough Voyaging, about an ecological engineer in space called, I've done it again, an ecological engineer in space called Haviland Tuft. If you haven't read George R.R. Martin's Tough Voyaging, it's a lot of fun. Mick of 507, thank you for both your podcasts and this channel. My pleasure. I enjoy doing it, and I like building a community. Was M. Night Shyamalan a flash in the pan or cursed? I think that he got stuck in a rut. I think the expectation of the audience now is that he's going to pull a twist. What he should do is try to break out of that and tell a straight through line story, which doesn't require a Twilight Zone twist in the end. I think that he's probably making bank on it, but I think that people watch his movies expecting the twist and trying to anticipate it, and some of them will. And that kind of limits his future as a creative person. Favorite film soundtracks and composers, I like Michel Legrand. I like David Raksin. I like Morricone because of his versatility. I like Henry Mancini. There are not Curtis Mayfield's Superfly soundtrack is fantastic. Isaac Hayes is great as well. I like a lot of the stuff Quincy Jones did for the big studios in the 60s. There's some really cool Quincy Jones soundtracks out there as well. Just endless. I love finding new soundtrack composers, but soundtracks have kind of been lessened in their prominence in the series. I like the David Giacchino, whatever it is, who does a lot of the soundtracks for Marvel movies. I think he's doing some interesting stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of soundtracks here. Jerry Goldsmith, yeah, absolutely. Not a fact. Look after that migraine, mate. Those things are really bad. Yeah, throwing me money will always break me. So people break me. Wendy Carlos stuff, absolutely. A lot of the stuff Wendy Carlos did in the 70s in particular, really bringing electronic music into soundtracks. Absolutely. Yeah, let's see who else. Dave Grusin is really good. I like Dave Grusin's soundtrack from the 60s and 70s as well. Got a whole bunch of records there, and there's a whole bunch of soundtracks in those records there. And there's a record player just there as well. So I really should dive into my vinyl more than I do here in the man cave. Oh, Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Absolutely. If you haven't seen Umbrellas of Cherbourg, it is the perfect date movie. I also like Young Girls of Rochefort as well. I like Lola. I like a lot of Jacques Demy movies. They're just the best. Danger Diabolic score, absolutely. The Indicator, I think it was, did Danger Diabolic as a Blu-ray, and it's just fantastic. Yeah, the Shyamalan movies, the ones I like most, I think I like Unbreakable really much. I did pick this Twist in Sixth Sense early when I watched it, but I like Unbreakable. The sequel's not so much, but Unbreakable I think works really well. Roy Budd, yeah, Roy Budd did a whole bunch of really good stuff in the 60s and early 70s. I think he did Get Carter amongst other things. And Tangerine Dream. Some of Tangerine Dream I like, but some of it was badly placed. I think they did Ladyhawke, and I don't know that Tangerine Dream was the best choice for a medieval movie. I think that the soundtrack for that takes you out of the film, and for me, that just doesn't work. I did a whole videos about that, Striving to Balance. I did things like The Core. I love The Core, the movie from 2005 with Stanley Tucci and Aaron Eckhart and people like that. D. Campbell, wow, thank you very much. Really appreciate that a lot. Yeah, so I like cheesy movies. I mean, I'll watch A Man Called Flintstone, the Fred Flintstone animated movie a lot. I like that. Yeah, mostly 1970s movies that are incredibly sexist and misogynistic in some ways. I've got a weird fondness for those at some stage. Sorry, yeah, Ladyhawke was Alan Parsons' project. Steve Roberts, thank you for correcting me. Let's see, Tangerine Dream did the soundtrack for The Keep, Firestarter Legend. Yep, yeah, The Core is just great fun because it's a good science fiction action movie. It doesn't matter if the science doesn't work. It's old. Did any of our countrymen get impacted by Me Too? Our political system got nailed by Me Too, and righteously. There are any number of government ministers that were caught out by that. A guy who may have been a future prime minister, Christian Porter, raped, allegedly, I've got to say that allegedly, raped a woman when he was 17, raped a girl, and she had mental health issues for the rest of her life and committed suicide just as she was going to the police. So Me Too really hit hard here, and rightly so. Some very strong women. In fact, the Australian of the Year at the moment, Grace Tame, was raped by a school teacher in her childhood and became an advocate for people who were assaulted. So we've got a lot of very strong women standing up and telling the truth about these issues right now, and I'm very proud that they do. Yeah, Ladyhawke, I didn't like. I don't think there was any real chemistry between Rutger Hauer and Michelle Pfeiffer in Ladyhawke, and for me, that's a kind of game killer. And yeah, it's one of those things. Firestarter, I'm going to have to rewatch, even though I hate George C. Scott with a passion. I'm going to have to rewatch Firestarter. Near Dark, yeah. Catherine Bigelow's Near Dark is fantastic. Between that and Strange Days, I think she should have done more genre work. I think that she really had an incredible gift for it, and that really does. I've lost my train of thought now. But yeah, Near Dark's right. Tangerine Dream, Killed It, and Sorcerer. I haven't watched Sorcerer for decades. I really should revisit that though. I still like Wages of Fear a little bit more. I'm probably going to wind up the live stream now because I've been going at this for over 2 hours. Are there any last minute things that people want to talk about or ask about? I'll give us a minute or two for that. Yep. Leo McKernan and Matthew Broderick were absolutely the most valuable players in Ladyhawke. Any love for Christmas movies? Yeah, I watched a very Harold and Kumar Christmas, which is my new go-to Christmas movie because it's transgressive and it does stoner comedies right. Yeah, I did a video about Strange Days, Dick Hammore, and revisiting that was interesting and good. I liked it a lot, and I think it's one that's aged incredibly well from 1995. What am I going to watch Christmas Day? I'm with the Outlaws, with Sal's parents, so I probably won't get much of a chance to watch anything on there. Leo McKern was great in The Prisoner. I actually know Leo McKern's niece, Carrie, who's a friend of mine, and catch up with occasionally in Sydney. Yeah, thank you very much, Driving to Balance. I really appreciate that. It's been a fun thing. Recent actual theatre going as fun as before the pandemic. I think I'm a little more cautious and a little more wary. I was in a fairly crowded cinema yesterday to see the Spider-Man movie for the first time, and I wasn't as comfortable as I am in a more spaced out kind of gold class cinema. Your Christmas movie, Tokyo Godfathers, absolutely Steve Roberts, one of the great animated films, so underrated. Tokyo Godfathers is an incredible piece of work. You too on Monteval. John Cutler, any recommendations for the holidays? Rewatch Die Hard, a very Harold and Kumar Christmas I like a lot because it's funny as hell. And just whatever you like, whatever your comfort movies are. I know it can be a stressful time for people at this time of year for various reasons, and family arguments being one of those reasons. But try to cut a little space to watch a comfort movie, something that really does nurture you and soothe your soul. I think that that's probably the thing that I really think you should do. Watch something that really comforts you. Johnny Mac 26, glad you got the jabs. I really want all of the people who watch this channel to thrive in these tough times. Original Scrooge, Alistair Sim, absolutely. Alistair Sim's the definitive Scrooge, and there's no argument about that, Dick Hammore. He really did nail the character wonderfully. Kay Nelson, thank you for watching as well. So we're just going to wind up here. Everybody have a fantastic holiday season, however you celebrate it. If you're Jewish, you already had Hanukkah, so that's all over. Yeah, and hope for a better year for us all. There are going to be challenges in the new year, but I think that we've been through 2 of these tough years so far. We know how to do it. We've just got to stay strong, stay connected, and follow the signs. Don't be distracted by the bullshit. Really, just be your best selves. Look after those you can look after. Nurture those you can't, and even just talk with the people you need to, who need your help. Because I think that the best of us has to prevail, and I'm hoping for good things in the new year. I'm hoping for a change of government here in Australia because we need it. We need somebody sane and not greedy and kind of inclusive running the country. And so I hope the best for all of us. We really need each other. The channel is going to continue. I'll be here for you all, and I will give you everything I've got as far as groovy movies is concerned. So take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you next time.